Benchwarmers, it is me, Jimmy Pilato. I am back here for my center of attention. Nico talked about Travis Hunter last week. It is right in the middle of football season getting really going. We're week 2 of college football, week 3 of college football. Week 2 just ended. Week 2 of the NFL is coming up. All that great stuff is happening. But I want to talk about football as a whole because going back, I don't really like giving the guy credit, but I think his quote over the summer was his speech, Tom Brady, when he was inducted into the Patriots Ring of Fame, talking about how football is hard, football is all of these things. The reason why you play football is not because it is easy. It is not easy to do all the things that are required of you to be great at it, but it is the most rewarding, and it is some of the best lessons in life that you can learn. And I think that was no more evident than in my weekend of football. So Friday night, I'm still coaching the little league team that I have out here in Colorado, and we were playing one of the radio guys' teams in our league, which is awesome because he's the one guy on 104.3 locally. I'm not going to give him credit and mention him, not going to name drop him, but he's one guy here that is that full-blown Rusty. Like the biggest, Russ is, he's already saying that Russ could have done what Bo Nix did on Sunday last week, and I'm sure that we can talk about that a little bit later on too, but this guy is just the biggest tool and likes to think that he knows football. And we absolutely just kicked the crap out of them, 52-2. So they did get a safety. We stuffed them on our goal line, and then when we went to take the next snap, our quarterback dropped the ball in the end zone. That was great. Saturday happens, and I'm down in Pueblo supporting my sister because the CSU Pueblo season is now underway. It was their home opener, and I'm trying to watch the CU Nebraska game as I'm sitting there. And I say trying because what I had on there was not a college football game. That was not a rivalry matchup. Like, there's a bunch that I hate about this. It's a good lesson to teach kids. Don't do what Shedeur Sanders and those guys did on Saturday. If you get a beating like that, take it. You deserve it. You did that to them last year, and all of them stayed out on the field and shook your hand. So that was bad. And then Sunday, we lost to the Patriots. The Bengals lost to the Patriots. We had Joe Burrow. He was healthy. We saw it coming. We all knew that it was coming because of the way that they handled their preseason. And I've spoke way too often about that, and I don't need to waste any more airtime of this show. I just know that it's backed up. It's backed up by the numbers. It is what it is. Football is great. Football can be devastating. That's why we all love the sport. That's why people gamble thousands of dollars a weekend because it's just that enthralling. So I'm glad that football season is back. I know that there's other sports. We are going to get into the PLL finals. We're on to episode 197 of the Far End of the Bench podcast. It is time to get into the rest of the episode.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
We have been driving methodically down the field the last 4 years. We see the 200 end zone in sight. We're 3 episodes away, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Far End of the Bench podcast with myself, Jimmy Pilato, and my co-host, Nico Bryant. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, like while you're here. Follow us on social media at FEOTB Pod. Check out all the other shows and content that we do. If this is your first time tuning in, we will have our weekly pick'em segment coming up later. I'll show the updated scores. We actually had the same exact record from last weekend. We just missed opposite games. But Nico, how are we feeling? I know that football season was but football has started as but there was some excitement going into the first week of the season. So
I've got the football juice in my veins right now. I've been watching, obviously. I watched the Hard Knocks, the whole Hard Knocks of the preseason one with the Giants, which I honestly, the nerd in me that loves all the number crunching and loves how seeing guys pick up different guys for different reasons. And hey, this guy would be a great locker room guy. Hey, this guy we need to move on from. Stuff like that is very, very interesting to me. And that Giants Hard Knock preseason one I thought was very, very good. And then the training camp. Hard Knocks of the Bears. I just finished watching that too, and obviously I'm not a fan of either of those teams, and frankly I don't really have a lot of care for either of those two teams, but it's interesting to see all that going on, and obviously the first full weekend of having a full weekend of football with Saturday and Sunday games. Not even Saturday, Sunday. We had Thursday, Friday,
Friday,
Sunday,
Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
and Monday. Thank you very much. So this past Tuesday and Wednesday felt like there's no football on. Like what am I supposed to watch? I guess I'll watch a TV show about football, and that's what I did. So it's
you could have turned on one of the replays. They've been playing all the weekend games on repeat. I watched Texas and Michigan like 3 times.
I'm not a replay guy. I'm a
know,
watch a live guy. The only time I was ever a replay guy was when there was nothing else to watch on during COVID. So, but yeah, it's like I said, football's back in the veins. Unfortunately, it was not a great weekend for any of our teams. It was a loser's week. It's for us. So hopefully we can turn that around. But yeah, it's good to have football all the way back. It's fun talking trades again, fancy trades again. It's fun drafting, doing waiver wire pickups. There's not much like it.
It's fun until when your waiver wire pickup only scores you 11 points and the quarterback that you replaced him for scored 17 in his NFL debut. No, that doesn't hurt at all. Before we get all into sports and everything, you're wearing the bandana. I noticed it when you first came on the screen, so I'm sure people who are watching noticed it. If you're not watching and you're listening only, Nico is wearing the red bandana.
This isn't a new style. No, it's not a new style for me.
I was trying to adopt bandana guy too, and sometimes it's cool, but sometimes it's a little bit much. We're live on September 12th, so yesterday was the 23rd anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. We at the school we had a moment of silence, but that's obviously it's a day that comes around and it has its own kind of feeling. It's weird that we didn't have football on it because the last 3 years, think about it, we've had football on 9/11, at least high school or some sort of college football. And the few times that I remember playing on 9/11, it was kind of special because it's just a day that it's special because you're playing a game that you love on a day that is memorialized. And when we memorialize it, we are definitely trying to do it for the right reasons. Do it for the nearly 3,000 people who were killed in the attacks. That number includes the firefighters, the first responders, the police officers, people that weren't even in the building, but that immediate crash zone where the buildings and the towers fell. It was much more devastating than just 2 planes flying into a building. And the fact that, it's still something that is kept fresh in the minds of everybody. And I'm really happy that my school did a moment of silence after the morning announcements. I think that, remembering what that day was and what it kind of signified is probably not the worst thing to do in a time like this where we're currently living.
And remembering the unity and the heroes and then everything that goes on. Like last year, this time I was actually I visited the memorial on 9/11 last year. I was in New York and got to see it. It was very impactful, seeing all the things and seeing all the people that were just surrounded by it and who were affected by it. And obviously, look, the red bandana I'm wearing, if you don't know the story of the man in the red bandana, highly, it'll take 10 minutes of your time. Find the video on YouTube, find the video on Twitter/X. The story of Wells Crowther, a guy who grew up playing lacrosse, grew up playing hockey, played the college lacrosse at Boston College. His father gave him a red handkerchief so back in the day, instead of blowing into tissue, you blow into a handkerchief. So they said, here, put this in your pocket, square pocket when you dress up for business, and put this red bandana in your pocket for when you need to blow your nose. And he's something he always held on to. And I'm trying to try to do my best to try to remember all the information in the story, but he was working in the South Tower and working for some company. He wasn't a firefighter at that point, but he had his red handkerchief on, and as the first tower hit, he was in the opposite tower, and he saw the second tower hit, and he was right below where it hit. And he was brave enough to put on his red bandana around his mouth to cover the fumes from going into a stream, and he recorded at least 12 lives, helping them get down from the towers and get them to safety, getting them out and helping one another. Is the quote that stuck with me the most from that story is when he got to the zone where the plane hit the building. You saw all the bodies lying around, and he yelled out. He said, "If you can stand now. Stand with your brothers. If you can help if you're able to help someone else, help someone else. That was just the unselfishness of Wells Crowther, and just one of the many stories that that affect that of the heroes that saved helped so many lives that terrible day back 23 years ago. So yeah, red bandana. We here with the PLL, we honor him, honor the Wells Crowther Foundation. I got this bandana last year. The top of it says he went up, so others could go down. So yeah, it's a thing that strikes a chord with me, obviously with lacrosse background and the different things. But yeah, firefighters, policemen, all those people that were affected on those attacks 23 years ago. It's a tough day to remember, but they're heroes, and they will always be heroes.
Yeah, I'm looking through. Found the 9/11 Memorial website on the Wells Crowther story, and the quote from the 9/11 Memorial staff is, "People can live 100 years and not have the compassion, the wherewithal to do what he did." So it was, response in emergency situations. Never knew something like that was going to happen, and you never know how you react. But he reacted in a really good way. So everybody who did at least a little bit of something has been affected a little bit by those attacks. It's basically everybody who lives in the country today. But it's tough to remember those kinds of things, but it's good to remember because it does show strength, and it does show united front and what we can all do if we all put our heads together instead of just trying to argue with each other.
Absolutely.
That's really what it comes down to. And it's a fitting time for this to be coming out because we're not going to talk about anything, but with the debate going on and the election season, it's going to be all over the TV because election ads love football because that is where the most viewers are. So you will not get away from it. But that is, it's thank you to the heroes of 9/11. Anybody affected, we're thinking of you always, and especially on that day. Speaking of lacrosse, we got a finals matchup between the Whipsnakes and the Archers. So the Atlas aren't all that good, huh? They are not necessarily all that good. Weren't able to pull it off in the semifinals. Let's take a look back real quickly. I'm going to display the scores from the semifinal weekend. Archers were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, and the Atlas were pretty much dominating the East for the majority of the season. If you haven't been watching us, we've been keeping up with the PLL season. Nico obviously works for the California Redwoods. And then we are continuing coverage into the playoffs. But here are the semifinal games from last weekend. The Atlas lose by 1 to the Maryland Whipsnakes, and the Archers get a big 9-point victory in the semifinals. Obviously, with one game looked way more competitive. How was Maryland able to overcome what everybody thought was kind of just a Cinderella spot?
So yeah, well, I mean, for those that know, have been around or watched the PLL for more than a couple of years, you'll know that the Whipsnakes are obviously two-time champions out of the 5 years the league has been around. The Atlas are a team that have been one of the better teams in the PLL season in, season out, and they just unfortunately fall apart when it comes to playoffs. And now they're happening again this year. They had a 4-goal lead in the second half, and the Whipsnakes were able to call back into this game, get the game to overtime, and good old Levi Anderson, a guy that we traded away for a fourth round pick. We as in Redwoods traded away. Steps in, gets a game-winning goal, and the Whips are back in the championship game for the 3 out of the 4, or maybe it's 4th out of the 6 years the PLL has been around. So it's incredible. It was an incredible game, very surprising. One of the most intense overtimes you'll ever watch. That game was back and forth. Incredible saves on both ends by Entenmann in net for the Atlas, and then obviously on the other end, the defense of Ajax Apatillo, Matt Dunn and company was stifling to the high-powered offense of the MVP Jeff T and company. So the Whips really, like I said, they were a team before the playoffs started. I said, don't be surprised if they go on this run. They're that good. They're that well coached. Coach Stagnita is a very, very good coach, and it showed. It absolutely showed.
No, I think that I did ask you that point blank. Who was the team that was going to be somebody that nobody's really looking at, but they are going to be around, and that was one of the few teams. There's a couple other spots, a couple other teams to pick. Obviously, we thought Boston might have been in the semifinals, but they weren't there. And overtime in the playoffs is something else. Sudden death overtime in the playoffs is a whole nother level. I think that's going to be something huge. Not that you want every game to be in overtime, but that's something that's huge for the NHL. That could be something that the PLL rebrands as like, oh, this is our niche. You got to see what these guys had to do to win in the semifinals, make it to the championship.
Well, you saw the sudden death overtime.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I've seen it.
And
I've seen it twice.
The ups and flows of just losing your shit every 2 seconds. Be like, fuck, oh shit, it's on the edge of your seat. Absolute action packed. Luckily, that ending of the game was. I missed part of the CU game because I was watching that. So I actually got to watch a good game instead of the CU game in terms of that. But yeah, it was, like I said, a high-powered overtime, a sudden death. There's not much like it, and it was very intense and very very clutch plays by both teams with the Whips taking out on top.
For the other matchup, Carolina just was that a case of running out of steam, or was this a statement being made by the Archers that they just wanted to prove?
I think this was a statement by the Archers. For those that didn't watch the game, and look, you didn't miss much, but we were on historic watch. Like, we were on historic watch of it. First of all, 1 goal was the lowest amount of goals ever scored in the playoffs. Thank you very much. It was us last year. Now it's no longer us. But they did not score until the last 3 minutes of fourth quarter. We're talking about a lot of more than 3/4 of the game, not even scoring a goal. It was 9-0, 8-0, 7-0, 10-0, and then they got a cheap one at the end of the game, and there's just a big.
And probably celebrated it like they won. Like, come on!
You could tell they were. Well, I mean, it was in regular season maybe, but playoffs they were like, fuck. It just sucks. You could tell it hurt the Archers more that they didn't get them shut out, and specifically Brett Dobson, who was an absolute stud in that. He stayed on his head, obviously leading the way. He was stepping outside the cage and stepping outside the crease and just making plays that you see Canadian hockey goalies do, where it just makes the shooter's life so much more difficult. Where you're so much bigger and so much stronger, and make yourself as wide as you can be and making the net smaller. So, the Archers, it was a dominating performance. They got Matt Moore back. Van Overbeek looked very good. Obviously, Grant Hammond is on a playoff run for his own right now. It's the Archers, obviously the defending champs. They're on one right now, and they have a lot of momentum going to the final game, especially if their defense can play like that.
When Maryland won were they back to back as well, or is this the first time? No, it would have had to be the back-to-back because were they the first and the second, or were they like first and third? I can't remember if they said that they've had a repeat champion or not. That would be.
They were the first two. They were the first two.
They have had a repeat champion, but that would still be. I mean, being the second repeat champion, we see how hard it is in all these other professional sports. You're not going to get really big, long dynasty runs out of many of these teams. The only reason we're seeing repeat teams in the finals is because there's only like. How many? 6 teams? 7 teams?
Yeah. So 8 teams. 8 teams.
8 teams. But you just see everybody, and you get 2 games out of a team whenever they have a home game. So for the finals match.
And to add on to that, like the difficulty of repeating the last 4 champions, so dating back to the last season that the Whipsnakes lost the championship, because in the third PLL season in the bubble they made it to the finals and lost to the Chaos. During that season, the Chaos won the championship. The next year, Chaos made the championship game and lost, right? So then you look at the team that won, War Dogs, or might have been the War Dogs. Was it the War Dogs?
They've won. They've won one, and yes, it was one, and then lost in the finals the next year.
It was the second. It was the second championship for the Whipsnakes after they repeated, or the going into the third year, maybe whatever. The second year, the Chaos. The second year, the Whipsnakes won the championship. Third year, they lost to the Chaos, win the championship. Chaos win the championship, go to the finals, lose to the Water Dogs. Water Dogs win the championship. The following year, last year, Water Dogs make the championship and lose the Archers in the championship game. If the trend is trending that way, it is going to trend to the Archers losing this game and the Whipsnakes having a new champion and the defending champion losing in the finals. So it'd be an interesting trend that people will look at and how difficult it is to repeat, even if your team is that good.
It's hard to know if I think that both of these teams have confidence for different reasons. Obviously, Utah was able to just bully a team that was in the semifinals of their professional league, but Maryland is on the hottest of hot streaks. That's what we talked about at the end of the regular season going into the first round. This team got really good all at the right time. They were on 3-4 week win streaks going into the end of the season, and then playoffs, it's all win streaks. If you don't have a winning streak, you're going home. And right now it seems like that train I know that it's tough to dethrone a champion, and they're up there for a reason, and Utah is obviously very good, but you can get complacent and you won't even realize it. That's the main story of David and Goliath. When you are that big, you don't even realize what your weaknesses are. And Maryland doesn't really know what their weaknesses are either because they just play to their strengths. It's like a basketball team playing a full court press against a team
like
that is
their youth influx, along with the veteran talent that the Whipsnakes have, is very, very good. Their offense is still one of the best, and it's crazy. You look at the retirements they had last year. The starting goaltender retires in Phipps. The obviously Michael Earhart, the guy who has won the LSM of the year every year since the PLL was first created. That is 5 straight years of LSM of the year. And they obviously traded Bryce Young away to the Cannons, and you traded Connor Kirsch to the Cannons as well. And it's a brand new identity of the team as opposed to the last couple of years. They needed that after the poor performance they had in the playoffs last year and poor performance they had in the regular season. And the influx of youth talent with TJ Malone, Levi Anderson, and company, it's something to behold. So the Whips are definitely a team to look out for. But like I said, it's tough to beat the champ. To be the champ, you got to beat the champ. And the Archers still have that moxie and still have a lot of veteran talent that are still hungry for another.
And what I will say for the fans of the Redwoods and for fans of teams that had disappointing or didn't have the season that you wanted them to have, Water Dogs could be in that conversation too. Since the league is so small, we're seeing these teams being able to kind of cycle through like good, bad, instead of the NFL where there's so much talent and there's so many teams and it's also spread out that it's really even. Teams can go flip back and forth. Denver was in the playoffs after having the number 1 overall pick. It's not
absolutely it's
totally
not unheard of. It is not unheard of.
All right, let's stop talking round ball sports and let's go to that oblong shape that we all know and love. It's the pride and joy of the great United States. It's funny. I have a few kids from Mexico in my class. We go outside and they're like, football? I go, de americano o feet. He's like, oh yeah, no, teach me how to do. I was like, okay, I can do that. But let's start with some college football. And I think not necessarily the most surprising, but I think maybe the most telling score of the weekend that I'm going to throw up here. And I'm interested to see what you think when I show you. But I think this was the most telling game of the weekend, what 2 teams are going to be throughout the rest of the college football season. This is not to say that Michigan is totally dead. I still think that they will be ranked possibly at the end of the season in the top 25, but this dashes any notions of any kind of repeat performance. You're not winning the Big Ten. You're not doing anything. You're not making a playoff run this year. And on the other side of it, Texas, Quinn Ewers, when big games happen, the dude balls.
Texas is an absolute wagon. They're a damn good program. They seem to be doing things the right way. They're much more defensively sound this year as opposed to as offensively high powered. Michigan team, look, who knows? Like, I'm not saying that they can't win the Big Ten because obviously they've lost the game and it's not a Big Ten opponent, so things could change come start of the Big Ten's regular season. So it's not the end of the world. They can still make it back. Heck, if they beat Ohio State at the end of the year again, and if they win the Big Ten championship, they're hosting a playoff. They get a bye and they're hosting a game still. So
will your opinion change when I tell you that their offense has scored a total of 24 points in 2 weeks? Because it's been mostly their defense.
I know their offense is trash. That's the thing. That's the problem is they're running into is they're still trying to run this 2 quarterback offense where one guy runs the ball, one guy throws the ball, and it's just like, what are we doing? Just figure it out. One guy, let it go. Obviously losing McCarthy, obviously losing Corum did not help.
10 guys on offense got drafted last year, plus all the defensive studs.
So it is a brand new offense, and it even hurts it even. And look, this should be expected too, right? You lose that many offensive pieces to the draft or to whatever, for transfer, whatever, and then you also lose your offensive coordinator, which is your head coach, to the NFL. Yep. This is an automatic yes. It's going to have a decline, absolutely. So unfortunately, maybe unfortunately for Michigan, you do have a lot of the season left. This could mean it could get worse. This could mean it could get improved very quickly. I'm going to lie on the side of it's not going to improve that vastly because you look at the other teams in the Big Ten and frankly, look, USC looks very, very good, right? USC looks very good. Oregon has struggled through 2 games. Ohio State has just beaten up on bad opponents. The Big Ten may not be as great as we might have thought preseason is all I'm going to say. So don't be surprised that Michigan still has a chance at a Big Ten championship spot in a bid. with the win at the end of the year if they're able to beat Ohio State.
My main going back over to Texas and staying in this game, I think that Sarkisian deserves a good amount of credit also, because the score is what the score is. It could have been worse. It could have been closer, but the scheme that Texas ran was the kryptonite to that Michigan defense. Michigan's defense is still really damn good. They still have really good corners. They got 2 interior defensive linemen that a lot of people say are possibly the best in the conference and could be very high drafted next year. But Sarkisian, when those 2 guys were on the field, puts everything out to the sideline, make them run, make them get back on the line, make them run, make them get back on the line. It's the old Rocky strategy, body, let the guy beat you up, tire himself out. By the second half, those guys couldn't hang anymore. They already scored. I mean, Texas was able to move the ball whenever they wanted to, but by the second half, the scheme that they ran, and Michigan had no answer to it. They had no adjustments coming out of second half. Like, Sarkisian and this Texas coaching staff might be more of an X factor than they've been in the past, which makes sense because he's from the Saban coaching tree. But with college coaches, we tend to only remember their bad stops. Like, that's what we do with Lane Kiffin. All we think about is USC. Well, no, he's looking pretty good as the coach of Ole Miss right now. And Sarkisian flamed out and had to go get saved by Saban. Well, wouldn't you want to be Saban's right-hand man for 8 years and learn everything that guy has to know? Yeah, I think that those are 2 really good things, and Sarkisian might be the missing piece that this team has needed.
Absolutely. And like I said, Texas, it's whether or not they get bitten on the ass by the SEC. That's the big thing here. It's not
the SEC is another story.
The SEC
in
is
total.
going to be a massive problem, and it's not going to be, like I said, beating Michigan probably in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten. Michigan would not be able to hold a jock to anyone in the SEC this year, whether it be Tennessee, Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia. Obviously, it is an absolute war scene.
They have 7 out of the top 10 AP teams in week 3.
Like
7 out of the top 10.
Texas could be a team that if they lose a couple games to some good teams, could be on the outside looking in, especially if they don't make the SEC championship. And that's where everything goes into effect. If you don't make the SEC championship and you have 2 or 3 losses, you're probably not getting in. And let's not forget about that, because that bye, obviously the first 4 get a bye, but if you have 2 or 3 losses and you didn't even make that game, you are going to be already seen as lower opponent as a team that, hey, say Alabama and Georgia make the SEC championship. The loser of that game will have that upper hand. And then the conversation is, well, do we have 7 teams that are all from the SEC that just don't make the playoff outside of? Like, that's the real conversation. So it could be. Look, Texas is not a for sure lock right now. They absolutely aren't.
No, and there's a reason that they have so many highly ranked teams, and I'm pulling up another score here. I know that this one was kind of lost in the middle of the day. It was one of the few ranked matchups that was happening this weekend, but Tennessee, their new quarterback, I know his first name is Nico. I'm going to have to listen to how
Nico Iamaleava. The only reason why I know that is because Tennessee is my dynasty team right now. So.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. I was like, how know how to pronounce it, but I don't.
That's the only reason why. So Dylan Sampson, obviously, an absolute stud for them. Almost 150 yards on the ground. That's going to be a problem for any SEC team. They have some really good weapons. The receiver Squirrel White obviously comes to
their
mind.
Offensive scheme is my favorite. I know why you play with Tennessee.
It's the veer option. It's
everything is so spread out, and they're just like everybody runs a go, and if the quarterback doesn't like it, quarterback can take off because everybody's playing 15 yards outside. Like their scheme is
very
pure
effective.
College football.
It's very effective, and like I said, you do this to an NC State team that, look, no offense, we were talking about NC State being one of the best teams in the ACC after how bad the ACC's competition was.
ACC's garbage.
ACC is absolute garbage. It's absolutely garbage, and there's only one team that could be a saving grace for that conference, and it's probably Miami. So look, Tennessee just came in, poured it on. They have good edge rushers and James Pierce. They got who won a Heisman Trophy for me, by the way. That's how good of a season he was for my dynasty team in NCAA football. The defensive end, James Pierce.
No way. You won a defensive Heisman.
I had 23 sacks with him, okay? And I'm playing on All-American. Thank you very much. The dude is different, is all I'm going to say. Dude is absolutely different. James Pierce.
I haven't even played James Pierce down here. I don't think that he played much of this game because they had the game in hand pretty much the entire time.
They absolutely dominated. And like I said, Tennessee is another team that is going to face on the schedule. And like I said, they play Bama, they play Georgia, they play these tough teams, and it's going to get Look, the regular season is going to be on a different all new high. We knew that coming into this new, obviously, conference alignment. Like we knew it that the regular season is going to have that much more juice, that much more momentum, that much more high powered games. Where look, they may not mean as much because obviously with more teams in the playoff, but they're still going to mean quite a bit in trying to win the SEC, win the ACC, win the Big Ten, do all these things. So the SEC is an absolute dog pound is all I'm going to say. There are teams just dominating all across the board, and that shows in the non-conference play.
Yeah, they're on another level. There's a few Group of 5 teams that are kind of surprising people, but the Big Ten has struggled with some less than stellar opponents. You can say what you want about the SEC scheduling Tennessee Tech in week 2. At least Georgia beat them by 50. Actually, they didn't beat them by 50. They did not cover the spread. They beat them 48-3. So that was a little bit disappointing. They got to be better. You just have to be better. Instead of talking about more games from the last week, if we want to touch on something that happened last week, we can. I'm going to look at some of the top games that we have coming up this weekend, starting in the Big 12. Before we get to CU, because we have a lot to discuss with CU and Coach Prime, let's talk about the Kansas State-Arizona matchup, because that will be – I don't know if I trust the Big 12 like I did earlier on this season, but that is a matchup where, Arizona has to prove that they're ready for this conference. Kansas State had a really tough matchup last weekend against Tulane, had to make a comeback victory. Who is going to be competing with, I think, Oklahoma State, because Oklahoma State had a huge comeback win against Arkansas, and I think you can kind of rely on them. They're the oldest team in the conference, and I think one of the oldest teams in college football. So outside of Oklahoma State, who's going to be competing for this conference championship?
I'm really high on Kansas State. After what I've seen for the first 2 games, and especially this weekend, if they're able to knock off Arizona and doing it in a dominating fashion, I think Kansas State, they have this quarterback here. I think it's maybe Shepard or something. He has this long blonde hair. The dude's an absolute stud, can sling the ball. Look, Kansas State was willing to move off of Will Howard, the guy who's the starting quarterback of Ohio State right now, because this dude is that good. Oh, Avery Johnson.
Avery Johnson, yeah.
The dude is like this guy is an absolute different unit. And to say that, hey, I'm good with moving on from Will Howard, you can go play for Big Ten Ohio State. I want this guy, Avery Johnson, stepping in. Look, it's a different animal. And like I said, I'm excited to see how he matches up against a tougher opponent in Arizona.
I do think that the Bearcats don't get the respect because they have that Pac-12 kind of stench on them. They play better defense than a lot of people give them credit for. They like to establish the run. They play a little bit more of a Big 12 style of football, but this is kind of a make or break. If you're not beating Kansas State, then I am not going to be behind you as much as I am. I'm trying to wave the banner because I know I have a lot of friends that are U of A fans. That's who ended up coming out to Gunnison to go to school with me. They were all from Tucson instead of Tempe. So they hated ASU and they loved Arizona. Let's talk about Colorado State, because this was a hot topic last year. This was probably the highest rated game, I think, of the season, at least up until this point. I'm sure that there were other games that ended up passing it, but this was a marquee matchup. This was where we started to see all the rappers and the celebrities, like what kind of celebrity Coach Prime can bring out. Yeah, College Game Day. And it was 8:00 and everybody was still up. And it turned out to be a great game, overtime, between 2 in-state rivals, a team that doesn't know they're not supposed to be on the field with this other team, or at least that was the narrative that was being said. I want to know at what point can we just deal with reality? What point do we have to stop hyping up Coach Prime's Buffaloes and just deal with what the team is? And they have not done the things that they needed to in order to be the team that they think that they are. They have all of this swagger and all of this bravado, and none of the guys have played before together, and it shows. You're starting an 18-year-old right guard who I love the kid because he's from Cherry Creek, but there's a reason why most people redshirt, especially when you play Division I Power 4 conference football. Like, he needs an extra year to get stronger. And your leader, air quotes, that way if you're not watching, you can see my –
Not even air quote. There's an L on his jersey for a reason. For standing as leader.
Yeah, no, I get that, but you're not a leader if you walk off the field. You are not a leader if you can't handle your emotions. You are not a leader if you throw other people on your team under the bus. You will not see really good players do that. You can't talk about the other quarterback because guess what? Whether Raiola got touched or not, he outplayed your ass.
He did.
Far and away, up and down the field, whatever you wanted to do. So I'm hot. If you can't tell.
He absolutely did. And look, I'm on the stance of Coach Prime is what we call in the NCAA football terms of called in video game terms a master motivator. He's a master motivator. He will hype you up. He will give you the hype. He will give you the love. He will give you the motivation, and he will recruit. He will recruit the fuck out of high quality talent. But my man, unfortunately, cannot put a coaching staff together that is competent and be able to win football games. And look, it may not be all the coach's fault. It may not be his fault. Maybe it's just guys being put in the wrong positions to succeed. But I don't understand how on the first play of a drive on your own 2-yard line, you line up in the shotgun and decide to run comeback routes, little hook routes, and you don't expect
and your
those,
quarterback throws it late.
And what do you think is going to happen?
I can tell you what happens 100 times out of 100. What happened? Pick six.
If you were on your 2-yard line, I don't care how obvious it is. You need to get under center. You need to fucking run the ball and give yourself some room so that doesn't happen. Plain and simple. So it doesn't happen. And look, there's a lot of talent on this team. There's no doubt a lot of talent on this team. But the fact of the matter is this team almost lost to North Dakota State, which they almost did, and then obviously they lose to a Nebraska team in embarrassing fashion. And they it's not just embarrassing fashion on the field, it's embarrassing fashion off the field too. Obviously Shador and the post-game comments did not help. Obviously he came out and said, well, that was not a poke in my offensive line. It just was that Raiola had more time to get the ball off, and that's why he performed better than I did. Well, whether or not he did or not.
It again.
To be honest with you, if the roles are reversed and Shador Sanders was on the Nebraska team with that much time and Raiola was on this roster, I think the result probably would have been the exact same. No offense. And Raiola is that good of a quarterback. He's a freshman, obviously, and he has a lot of promise. But I still think that the result would have been the same in Nebraska. If you fought the quarterbacks, Nebraska still would have dominated. Because the inability just to run the football, the inability to play sound defense where guys aren't running wide open, it just blows my mind. It blows my mind. And look, I'm going to be careful with my words here, but there's no juice on this offensive line. And I'll use a comment by a TikToker and a thing that I saw is this offensive line looked like it could start a rap group, right? Like they could all have albums coming out where they're greats all time. When you look at the other great offensive lines in the country, no offense, but they're a bunch of fucking corn pickers and guys that just work and just are absolutely inbreds that are big meaty ass motherfuckers. Like it's not. I'm not saying it because they're black and white. I'm saying that because these dudes are just athletic. And no offense, you can have athletic guys in the offensive line. I need big ass motherfuckers that just can move a guy 4 feet, plain and simple. And right now,
size isn't the issue.
And right now, 5 of these guys cannot do this. Like there's 5 guys that cannot do this at a consistent rate, plain and simple.
Who's the one that you're saying can? Because I think it's all 5.
Well, I'm saying all 5. Saying all 5 can't. Like,
everybody wants to hype up that 6. They have the 6'11" or whatever, the big ass tackle that they recruited late, and he's starting. But no, none of them play. None of them play hard. Like this is all CU's doing. They've created the monster that if Shador can't do what Shador normally does, then everybody else believes that, oh, well, we're just going to lose. We can't do anything else. If Shador doesn't score all the points, we can't score any points. And the coaching staff isn't going to give the ball to anybody else because Pat Shurmur must have – this is all speculation, so I'm not saying this for a fact, and I have not heard this anywhere. But to me, everything that I see and everything that I'm reading that's coming out is just a whole bunch of daddy ball. Like I've seen a lot of youth football teams where the coach puts his son at quarterback and it's pass, quarterback run.
Jimmy, you're not like saying anything different. I've seen it reports out of assistant coaches from the Colorado Buffster on podcasts saying, well, yes, we'd like to get the running game possible, but at the same time, is a running play 4 yards better than keeping the ball in the hands of your best player in Shador and having him throw the ball for 4 yards? That was a real quote I heard. A real quote. So and they were, and I was told, well, hey, we don't really need the running game. You don't really need a good running game. You don't really need the running game. You need a fucking running game. Plain and simple. I don't care if it's a veer option. I don't care if it's a quarterback option. You need to have a threat where the defense has to respect you in the box. Because right now, the cornerbacks and DBs and these linebackers are just teeing off on Travis Hunter, teeing off on Jimmy Horn, and just making their life difficult, making Shador's life difficult when you have zero running game. Zero running game.
They got stuffed on 4th and 1, I think 3 times in the game.
I understand putting the ball in the hands of your best player, but you don't like you have to make the defense respect multiple options. Because when you
if he's the quarterback that everybody says he is, he should know that's not smart and make a better call.
If you become one-dimensional, it is the easiest thing to stop. The college football is already dumbed down as possible when it comes to offensive playbooks and how offensive schemes work. You need to make yourself two-dimensional, heck, three-dimensional in the RPO game as well if you're going to win games on the road against tough opponents. Plain and simple. And like I said, it was an embarrassing performance. The team gave up. Team quit. Travis Hunter's throwing his helmet, throwing tantrums on the sideline. Shador walks off before the end of the game because he needs to get something x-rayed. In reality, he probably didn't really need anything. He didn't have anything wrong with
his ego. His bruised ego needed to get x-rayed.
It was a poor showing. And look, this is the biggest game of your schedule. It's circled, and it's circled because at this point, see, Deion, I'm being very frank with you. You're playing for a job because everyone says you're going to go take another job. You're not going to take another job with this because you won't get another job with this if you keep doing this. This is a rivalry game for a team that you barely beat last year when you were a 20-point favorite, by the way. Let's not forget, 20-point favorite going into that CSU game last year, and you were at home. You now face a team where, well, it's personal. It's personal. It's personal. Well, let's show me it's personal. Show me that there's the Rocky Mountain Showdown still means something. Because obviously, the Nebraska rivalry didn't mean anything to you, right? Obviously, that didn't mean anything to you. So show me that this means something to you. Because you know CSU thinks that they can beat your ass. They know because they felt like they should have won that game last year. And frankly, they should have won that game last year. They should have. So look, does your shit stink, or are you still the damn talented good team that you are? Because going on the road into CSU is a different animal. And look, CSU has played some terrible football. That team stinks. Let's keep it a buck, okay?
They did play Texas. Texas is better than both teams that CU has played combined.
Yes, this is probably times 10. That's very true. But the CSU team is not as good as they were last year. No. Obviously, Braden Nicolosi at quarterback is still very good. They still have a very good talent receiver. But this CSU team is not as juiced up as last year, right? They're not. They're at home. It's a little bit different. They're not as strong, as much leaders, as much returning guys they were last year. So they're a weaker team. And frankly, you're supposed to be better. So we'll see how this happens. But if Deion Sanders gets blown out in 2 back-to-back rivalry games and has a very poor performance in the Big 12 this year, dare I say it, he's on the hot seat. Dare I say it? Because look, if you're CU, this is fun, right? This is fun. Ticket sales up, jersey sales up, uniform sales up, all that stuff, whatever. Can this be sustainable for more than fucking 3 years? And right now, it's leaning towards no. Plain and simple. It's leaning towards no. Because, look, you're not going to have – unfortunately, the point CU's program is right now, you're not going to bring in a coach that is as high level as a Deion Sanders and recruiting-wise and talent-wise. Plain and simple. That's just not possible.
And as soon as Deion leaves, all those recruits he brought in are out the
door. Are also out the door. But the possibility is when Shador and Travis Hunter both leave for the draft next year, if you decide, hey, maybe there's this young guy at Idaho, who Idaho it looks like one of the best NCAA teams in the country, a guy like North Dakota State, or a guy at one of these smaller programs that can build a program back up and make it a consistent winner, like Utah, like Kansas State, like Arizona, then that's way better off. It's way better off than this circus that's currently going on, unfortunately. And look, Travis Hunter is the best athlete to ever play college football at CU. I can very strongly say that. And you probably will never get another athlete to be on that level. But in reality, plain and simple, one player doesn't win in football games, and especially not a cornerback / receiver. Look, Shador is all that and the other thing. Still think he's a first-round pick. Obviously, everything that happened is probably going to make him lower, but I still think that someone will take a strong look at him. But the man needs to move on from his dad. There's just too much of a shadow that I think that if he played somewhere else, he would have been already a Heisman finalist or something. Like I strongly believe that because there's way too much there's way too many outside distractions going on that is just making his life very difficult.
I am interested to see Fowler Nicolosi for CSU is the type of quarterback that torched CU's defense last year. And he did that last season in the Rocky Mountain Showdown too. But I'm thinking back to 2 weeks ago against North Dakota State, and Miller's running up and down when pass rush is not necessarily getting there, but everybody's covered. That is going to be his game. And if Fowler Nicolosi can have a monster day like he did last year, he was a big reason why they almost pulled off the upset. I do have, again, I don't know why my league keeps scheduling games on Friday, but they did. So we got to move forward. There's more college football to talk about, so maybe we'll fit some more in next week. But we're moving on to the NFL, and let's first take a look back at some of the games that we picked last week for our pick'em. I have it up on the screen now. We are tied 4-2. I think I lost the Ravens and the Bengals, and then you lost the Broncos and the Bengals. So Bengals screwed the both of us. And we're sitting here dead even. But the Chiefs and Ravens game, great game to start off the season. Very competitive. Both guys, Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes are that next generation of quarterback. It got brought up again, and I got caught up in another storm because I'm telling a fan base that their team doesn't have a great quarterback. They have a great football player because he plays football very well. And the reason that he's a great football player is because he kept them within an eyelash. If Isaiah Likely had a size 10 instead of a size 13, that's a touchdown, and we're talking about the Chiefs starting 0-1 and the Bengals coming in also 0-1. But no, the Chiefs won. They're the two-time defending champions. The Ravens are very good. I've never said that the Ravens are not a good team. I've never said that Lamar Jackson is somebody I enjoy playing against. However, I know that Lamar Jackson is a guy that every single defensive coordinator in the NFL knows exactly how to beat when it comes playoff time. You force him to stay in the pocket, you force him to throw, and all of a sudden, instead of hitting guys open down the seam, he's throwing it over their head, or he's throwing it at their feet, or he's taking off and running because he doesn't trust himself to get it there.
The difference between that Lamar Jackson the last couple of years and this Lamar Jackson is the defense has to play a couple of different things. This running game is two-dimensional. It's not just running game and pass game two-dimensional. This running game is a whole other dimension because you either have to have a guy that can tackle Lamar Jackson open field, which is as difficult as it is already. Everyone knows that. Or you have to have someone big enough or be able to chop Derrick Henry down like a tree. So look, this two-headed monster running game, frankly, they could run a college-style veer option running game if they wanted to and just try to get playmakers open space and be just fine. Because look, Isaiah's Likely obviously had the massive game, and Mark Andrews had a much lower down. The receiving game, obviously, Zay Flowers is trying to have a better season after the way it ended for him last year. This Ravens team will be just fine because their defense is still very, very solid, in my opinion. But this Chiefs team is we let this Chiefs offense get one of the best playmakers in this draft. It's sick to my stomach at the fucking 30th pick or whatever the hell it was. The Bills decided to trade back and let the Kansas City Chiefs draft the fastest motherfucker that has ever come out of the draft.
Guy that I talked about, I wanted him last season when the Bengals were 1-2. I said Xavier Worthy was going to be. He's less injury prone. Jamison Williams.
They are licking their chops over in Kansas City. Like Patrick Mahomes is like, I got more weapons this year.
Y'all gonna give me one of the fastest receivers in the league?
Like I lost Tyreek Hill 2 years ago. We haven't really had that speed option because look, Rashee Rice obviously all the off the field things.
He's fast other areas. He's faster on the road than on the field.
Other road, but the dude is still a damn good receiver and still produces very well as a number one. And Xavier Worthy as your number two. I mean, it's
good luck covering that guy.
I'm not calling him Tyreek Hill 2.0, but I am calling him the next version of Tyreek Hill because this man has the speed, and if he is able to work on the dimensions of route running and getting open on one man-to-man coverage like Tyreek Hill has been able to do, we are seeing the next big problem in the NFL. Yeah. Just plain and simple. It is a massive problem, and this defense for the Chiefs is still damn good. Pass rush is very good. I mean, it's obviously everyone knows the Chiefs are going to be a problem. There's zero doubt about that. But I think that this game showed that both these teams are going to be in the running for AFC Championship. I think that both teams are going to be primed up. I would not be surprised if these two met at the end of January. next year. I would not be surprised at all because of how dimensioned both these teams are and how well coached they both are.
And the other teams in their divisions are all the teams that we thought were taking a step forward are actually showing that they're either taking a step back or just not moving anywhere. Which brings me to, I want you to talk about the Bronco game because I kind of talked about what I felt just as somebody. Again, I'm not a huge fan. I end up becoming one because they're just always on everywhere around here. I gave my 2 cents about the game. I want to know what your thoughts are because there's a lot of extremist camps that either say Bo Nix is still the best and it's Sean Payton, or well, we shouldn't have never got rid of Wilson because now we're eating all this money to just suck behind a rookie quarterback. I don't know. What were your opinions of this game?
Well, my first opinion was that was one of the ugliest football games I think I've ever seen. Plain simple. 2 safeties in the first half was not on anybody's bingo cards. No. Plain simple. And then also like we scored 12 points at the half, and that was because of 3 or 2 field goal or 11 points, whatever it was, because of two safeties and a bunch of field goals. It was crazy. It was absolute wild to see how all that worked out.
I was also happy my team wasn't the only one to wait till the second half to score first. So
I will say that the thing is, the things I show was that the Broncos are well coached. This is what the special teams, the mental mistakes on offense and defense were not there. They were not taking dumb penalties. Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper were obviously the defense was playing their ass off. Like they were doing a fantastic job. The defense is going to be the backbone of this team. I saw a rookie quarterback on the road is what I saw. I saw a rookie quarterback on the road where receivers were dropping the balls. The offensive line, obviously, you lose Bowles at the left tackle position, so you had a new left tackle jump in and have to start. Like it looked like a rookie quarterback, plain simple, and that's what it's supposed to look like. It's what it's supposed to look like.
I will say it scares the shit out of me for your upcoming game, which is.
We can talk about it because it scares the shit out of me too.
And we need to talk because if anybody knows what TJ Watt can do fear-wise as an opposing fan, that's me. I've seen it. It's going so to be many times.
All I'm going to say. But look, he looked like a rookie quarterback, and the Seahawks looked like they were the more well-furnished team. Plain simple. They ran the ball really well with Kenneth Walker. Their defense obviously is very good in the back end with Julian Love. Obviously having not Dexter Lawrence, Quinnen Williams on the defensive line that they re-signed. This defense is very good for Seattle. Seattle's a very good football team. They are not a team that just sucks. Plain simple. They will always give you a hard team. And look, McDonald, I think he did a very good job on the defensive end coaching the game. You could see the first game jitters in the first half of the Seahawks. You could see the interception of the first play, holding in the backfield for a safety. You could see all those smaller errors that just come with being a first-time head coach, first-time new coaching staff. You could absolutely see that. But then you saw the Pete Carroll team that he built and that they have, and Lockett, Metcalf, and Jigba, and obviously Walker and the weapons they have. And you can see, hey, Geno Smith, just take your time, get the ball to the right person, you'll be just fine. And this defense is obviously very, very good. Look, it's a good football team, plain simple. Yeah. And Seattle is a damn tough place to say. I'm not stroking Bo Nix off. I'm not going to do that because I was one of the first people to say, I think Bo Nix is the solution, but I need to see it. I haven't bought a Bo Nix jersey yet.
It's got to look good in the regular season. It looked really good in the preseason.
I haven't bought a Bo Nix jersey. I know that I'm like half our fan base. I haven't said he's our savior. He's going to be the other thing. I know he's going to be a rookie quarterback. Plain and simple. He is going to come with the ebbs and flows of making bad decisions because he just tries to make a play with his arm when DBs are 10 times faster as they were in college. You're just not going to beat a guy. Your receiver's not going to beat a guy that quickly. I would like to see some more dimensions out of this receiving group. I think that's one of the biggest things that has hurt me. I love the running game. Javonte, Jaleel, and Estime, I think, were very good. Offensive line, I need to see better performance. Receiving room is probably the biggest disappointment for me. Sutton had a decent game, but he got negated by Julian Love. You let go of Tim Patrick for a reason, right? Because you believe in the youth and believe in the versatility of your other guys. Josh Reynolds had a lot of great catches. He's going to be a very good receiver for you, but he's not your number 2. You need a speed threat, your number 2. Marvin Mims playing 12 plays on offensive reps cannot happen again. Plain and simple. I don't care if he's that young, he's not ready. You put him in because he's that much difference maker. Little Jordan Humphrey, 2 drops, big drops over for first downs. If that's Troy Franklin, what happens? Look, we are a young football team. Let's not forget that. We don't have championship aspirations. We don't. Plain simple. I'm not blowing smoke by saying this, and that should not be surprising anybody by saying this. We don't have championship aspirations. We have 500 football aspirations with growth and development. We're next year and the year after that, and the year after that, we're a team that's contending for a division every single a year, and a team that is contending for a Super Bowl, because we're not that team right now, because we're paying a motherfucker $40 million a year to play for a different team and not even play. Okay, so look, you need to develop guys, plain and simple. I am not here for the old heads. You are developing guys on the defensive side of the ball. I said this. Vance Joseph, horrible head coach. Fantastic coordinator still. What he has that defense doing I was very, very impressed by. Mm-hmm. But this offense needs to develop young guys, stick with the running game, do not get away from the running game, do not make Bo Nix make plays that are A, he's not comfortable with, B, he's just not ready to do that at his point in his career, and just play smart football, plain and simple. And look, this could have gone a lot worse. I think it could have gone a lot worse, especially on the road for a rookie quarterback. Like Caleb Williams was the first guy since, what was it, 2003 for a rookie quarterback to win on the road in his first game.
He's also one of the first people in like 50 years to throw for less than 100 yards and like
win a football game.
50% of completion, 50% completion.
Rookie quarterbacks winning week one is very, very rare and simple, especially on the road. So look, I'm not pumping the brakes saying this. I'm pumping the brakes saying this is not the end of it all. This is not going to be the stigma of how the season is going to go. But what I want to see is continued growth and continued development, like I said before, of the young guys, and making this team better, and making because look, when you pay a guy that's not playing for your team, you have to have youth. You have to have young guys that stick around for 3-4 years and just play on rookie contracts, because that's what you're stuck with, paying a quarterback that's just not going to play.
I also think McDonald, and I'm going to throw Gerard Mayo. I'm not going to talk about. I gave a whole dissertation. It was bad. I went off the rails, but Gerard Mayo deserves a lot of credit, as does Mike McDonald, because they had first week mistakes, but after the pick, the Broncos moved the ball 3 yards, kicked a field goal. And Gerard Mayo, after whatever happened, they got out to an earlier lead, but they relied on Jacoby Brissett not to make the dumb mistake that was thought of as being quick, and then just playing a solid rest of the game. So the first time head coaches had a pretty decent weekend for the most part. Let's get into this week's games that we are picking. We are starting tonight, about an hour or so away from kickoff on Thursday Night Football. I believe this one's only going to be on Prime. It's not going to be on cable this week. But the Bills are plus 125 favorite on the road. The Dolphins are
plus 125 underdog.
Underdog, that's what I meant. And the Dolphins are a 2.5-point favorite at home. Over-under for this game is set at 48.5. Tyreek Hill had an interesting Sunday last weekend, to say the least, but he still played really well. And the Dolphins got the win. The Bills got a win after starting off, pretty ugly.
Two comeback wins. Bills were losing the Cardinals at one point. The Dolphins were down big. I think down 3 scores at one point to the Jaguars, and both teams just came back, started firing on all cylinders. So,
all right, who are you going with for Thursday Night Football?
Josh Allen's never lost a Thursday Night Football game. Fact. The Bills defense is way better. Fact. Austin Kincaid, they just traded him onto one of my Dynasty Fantasy League. Fact. Give me the Buffalo Bills here. Dolphins worry me. So for whatever reason, I think the Bills running game with James Cook is more effective this year, and really going to help this offense a lot. Obviously, not having a deep threat in Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis, a guy that's a reliable catcher, is going to change things for the Bills. But I think Keon Coleman, I think a lot of these guys that Buffalo brought in, obviously the two-headed monster at tight end, helps him a lot. So give me the Buffalo Bills on the road.
I think back when I'm thinking about what my choice is for this game, I think back to the last game of last season, and it was in Miami. If the Dolphins win, they win the division and get a first-round bye in the playoffs, and they couldn't do it. It's early in the season, so Miami should still be invested, but at some point they're going to lose focus. Mike McDaniel can't keep these guys on track for an entire season. What Josh Allen did last weekend, because I said it, I think the Cardinals are going to be tough. You tweeted it on Sunday that with Kyler Murray that's motivated, they are very tough. And the Bills still came back and ended up winning, and it was a comeback win, but they looked pretty dominant on the way to that comeback. I'm also going to be going Bills. So we're same on that game. I know the next one's going to be different because I already said it last week. I bet a couple of my students who are Chiefs fans, 50 or 25 push-ups if the Bengals lose to the Chiefs. After what I saw on Sunday, that is probably likely, but I am still sticking with my team until I'm ready to give up on Joe Burrow. I'm not ready yet. I see a lot of people already selling all their stock. And I'm like, dude, the guy hasn't played 9 months. Give him a second.
I wonder whose fault that is. Head coach. That's all I'm going to say. Not playing your starters in the preseason. T. Higgins possibly faking an injury. Jamar Chase not showing up to training camp.
Jamar Chase is selfish.
Not showing up to training camp. Look, this is death taxes and the Bengals losing games early in the season. Jamar Chase, if you saw his post-game press conference, I'm sure you did, was very, very telling. It's like, I feel like we do this every fucking year. We lose first game of the year to a point that we shouldn't. 2 years ago, it was the Titans. Last year was against I think it might have been the Browns or it might have been the Ravens.
Last year was the Ravens.
And now, obviously, you lose a game. You have look, the Patriots should not be 1-0. Plain and simple. Let's keep it a buck. You sat here and said Jacoby Brissett is the starting quarterback. Jacoby Brissett? Yeah, that's Jacoby Brissett. Went in to Cincinnati, by the way, and beat you. Thank you very much. That's not
Rondale Stevenson, too. Yes. Like, that guy deserves a bulk of the credit. The offensive line for the Patriots absolutely whooped the shit out of our defensive line. We couldn't sack Jacoby Brissett. We let him run all over us. Like, it's god awful.
The offensive line didn't look very good either.
I'm not backpedaling on anything. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, it's because of this or because of that. No, they played god awful. I haven't said a single thing. I've had so many kids walk into my room this week. Oh, how'd you guys lose to the Patriots? Like, we played like crap. That's all. That's all you're going to get out of me. I'm not going to react. I'm not going to give you the big reaction. That's just what it is.
Kids don't know the pain of losing to the Patriots and what we had to go through, me specifically go through growing up. So, yeah, look, it's a little different nowadays, but yeah, it's the Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs. I'm not going to think twice about this. I plan on winning the pick'em this year, and I plan on picking teams that win football games. The Chiefs are going to win this football game. 5.5 is very telling, and that's probably because they know that the Bengals are still trying to get their footing, receiver-wise, quarterback-wise, offensive line-wise, defensive-wise, and the Chiefs, week 1, looks like they're still the best team in the country. So give me the Chiefs.
I will say that they have a way of that if this offense, with as explosive as it is, if they just figure it out and it clicks, it can click quickly. And it was a couple years ago. This is a game. It was at the end of the season, but I got to win over you because we both said, how are the Bengals going to go into Arrowhead and win? And they did it. And then they did it in the playoffs that year too. Like I am not sitting here predicting it. I am hoping. This is what
week 5 or 6. If this was week 5 or 6, I'd think about it.
I made an educated wish. Okay. It's an educated wish. I want the Bengals to look better than they did. God damn it.
I hope so for your sake.
All right. Your team, your quarterback. Somebody should break Bo Nix's kneecap so that he doesn't have to go out there and suffer what TJ Watt is going to do to him. I know. Which story do you want to know? I have so many TJ Watt stories about.
I'm aware that he is going to absolutely murder Bo Nix. I am. Look, the game plan this week should be Bo Nix. You're not going to throw the ball more than 5 yards down the field. You get the ball off in 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds at most, and that's how we win this football game. Plain and simple. Like that's how you do it. The worst part about this is the fact that Russ is probably not going to play. That's probably the worst part about it, because if you lose to the Steelers, it's you didn't get revenge against Russ, and you probably got your quarterback absolutely fucking decapitated. So that's probably the worst part about this. And look, Steelers fans, as you know very well, is when they travel very well, and when they play the Bengals, it is nearly 75% Steelers fans, and those terrible towels are going around. It's going to be nearly 75%. Probably 60-40 Steelers and Broncos fans on Sunday, and that's just the way they travel. And look, the Falcons and Kirk Cousins last week had to go to a silent count at home. At home.
That's embarrassing.
Embarrassing. And look, I honestly expect probably the same thing this week. Because no offense to the Steelers defense, and that's one thing that the Steelers have better than they know their identity. Tomlin knows his identity. To win tough, gritty football games and not win it pretty ways. Because let's not forget, Justin Fields did not throw or catch or throw or run for a touchdown either.
Oh, I'm well aware, Nico. I'm well aware.
Him and Caleb Williams both did that. So it's not like he was the superhero and the savior of the franchise. Okay, it's not that. It's the fact that he just came in and won a football game and held on to the football. So, look, if the Broncos are going to win this football game, it is going to take another defensive heroic performance. It is going to take a 13-10 football game. It is going to take a no turnover football game. It is going to take a keep Bo Nix jersey as clean as possible football game. That's the best way I could put it. If the Broncos are going to win this football game, I did it last week. I picked the Broncos. I'm going to try to jinx myself, and I'll pick the Steelers here to try and jinx myself. No, I'm not a freaking bandwagoner. I'm still going to prove it on my team. I have my Broncos stuff on all weekend. Don't you worry. Still rooting for my team, hoping that I lose this game, but hopefully the reverse jinx happens. The Broncos win. That's all I'm going to say. So because look, no offense to the pick 'em. I care about my team winning more than the pick 'em, and I know you do also. So like I hope that the Broncos win, but you know what? I'm hedging my happiness. I'm hedging my happiness and picking the Steelers.
I did that when I picked the Ravens last week. I was happy to lose that game to you because it meant that the Ravens ended up losing the first weekend as well. Moving on, we have now Sunday Night Football. Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears going to Houston to play C.J. Stroud and Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon. Man, when you got a guy like Joe Mixon on your roster, you just can't let him go, huh? That's the kind of guy that you do whatever you need to keep around, right?
Yeah,
Tell me I'm right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Or keep around a guy like Stephon Diggs and who's not really cancer the locker room and score 2 touchdowns on your.
Did you just say not really a cancer to the locker room? The dude was complaining for the first 15 minutes of the game.
Well, he's caught 2 touchdowns and maybe.
Once he caught his touchdown, then he shut his mouth.
They still won the football game, unlike both our teams.
He's got the biggest, fattest mouth when he doesn't get his way.
Either way, look, the Texans team is damn good football. The Bears. Look, the Bears ran into a Titans team that, first of all, Will Levis is ass, and you know that. I'm glad you got your clickbait on saying Will Levis is better than Anthony Richardson because he's fucking not. And Will Levis
beats him. That's fine.
Okay, I will wait and see when he does it. Plain and simple, because Anthony Richardson looked like an absolute stud last week, and Will Levis do a football that you and I could have picked sixth if you didn't see him shovel past it. So the Bears, Jimmy, didn't fucking score a touchdown on offense, and they won and put up 26 points. Let me not forget about that, okay? So this Will Levis looked like a fucking stepchild, and the Titans were terrible, and as opposed to Texans, who actually faced a good football team in the Colts, and Richardson looked very, very good. So Texans won a big game. The Bears played a horrible team in the Titans, absolutely horrible team in the Titans, who are very one-dimensional and only had to run the ball to keep them in that football game because they couldn't get nothing from Levis. So yeah, give me the Texans. It's a no-brainer. 8.5, 6.5, maybe too much, but I'll probably end up taking it on Sunday. The Bears, it's a cool story. The rookie quarterback is all that. I think he didn't win the football game. Your defense won the football game. Plain simple. And maybe it could win you a couple football games this year, but maybe it's a different change of the guards, Jalen Johnson, and obviously the different studs they have on defense is a different thing, but he didn't win you the football game. And frankly, you'll need him to win you the football game if you are to knock down the Texans because of how good they're defensively and offensively.
I just want to point out Anthony Richardson and the Colts still lost, right? And he only completed 9 out of 19 passes. I just want to make sure that we're still on the same page.
Still threw a couple touchdowns. Will Levis also got his ass kicked into a shovel pass that, like I said, you and I could have picked sixth.
Levis orchestrated a couple touchdown drives. He had the lead for a while. I know. I'm also picking
against
the
Bears against the Bears as opposed to against the Texans. I
didn't think that they would be able to do that against the Bears. So I'm still pleasantly surprised. I think I was really impressed with Anthony Richardson, but I'm not going to say that. No, it's not clickbait. It was not clickbait. Will Levis will beat Anthony Richardson. He will end up winning more games. I'm going with the Texans because I don't think the Bears are good at all. I think that they're bad all the way around. They just got lucky. Last game, Monday Night Football, and then we're into our segments to finish things up. I am going to be running right out onto the field, but that's basically my entire existence on days like this. Falcons going to the Eagles. Falcons plus 230 underdog. Eagles also get a 6.5 point spread. Over under for this game is 47.5. The Falcons learned the hard way that it's tough to bring in a new guy, and when you're playing against a really good defense, it's even worse. The Eagles struggled early, but Saquon looks like he's fitting himself in. They get to finally play stateside again. Where are you sitting with this one?
The Falcons looked horrible last week. Plain and simple. The Steelers defense just teed off on them. They absolutely teed off on them. But I'm also not going to sit here and say the Eagles impressed me a lot too. I was impressed with their defense and how well they caused Jordan Love to be on his back foot and struggling to get the ball off. Obviously, him getting injured the last 12 seconds of the game is very unfortunate for Packers fans. But with what I saw from the Falcons in week 1, I'm going to the Eagles. I think the Eagles will win this football game and get and like I said, I'm a believer, especially after seeing what Saquon did in the first game back, having a hat trick. That this offense is so damn good. And look, rest in peace to the tush push. It's done. That tush push fumbled it on the goal line, and it looked bad. So maybe it wasn't Jalen Hurts, maybe it wasn't the push, maybe it was Jason Kelce all along. Both you and I know that was probably Jason Kelce all along.
Probably,
yeah. Probably was. So give me the Eagles. I like their style of football. I think they have very, very talented this year. And Falcons, they hurt me last week, especially the guys I have on my fantasy team hurt me last week. So except Bijan. Bijan played really well. So give me the Eagles.
I wish Kirk would throw to Kyle Pitts because
Drake London.
Or Drake. I hope I didn't draft Kyle Pitts, but I might have drafted Kyle Pitts. But I can't go with the Falcons. Not until they actually look like a cohesive unit with all the new pieces that they have. Early on in the season, it's better to go with the guys that have a little bit more continuity, and that is the Eagles. They have the head coach continuity, the quarterback. A majority of the offense, besides a couple of pieces on the offensive line, and the defense will be good enough to stifle this Falcons offense that's still trying to figure themselves out. So I don't have a problem picking the Eagles here, and I think that they'll get it done. So we have only one game that separates us. If the Bengals win, then I get a game up. If the Chiefs win, you get a game up. That's how it should be. Needs to be close. Let's wrap up this week's episode with a little player, and bench warmer of the week. Play of the week. Let's actually start with player of the week. That's how I have it written down. I am going to go with Kyle McCord, transfer quarterback from Ohio State last season. He's out in Syracuse right now. Syracuse is undefeated. They just knocked off, I believe, Georgia Tech, who was 21st in the country last weekend in their dome. They don't play a very tough ACC schedule. Kyle McCord looks like he's a guy that can lead an offense, and he had 4 touchdowns on the day, over 350 yards. He was 32 of 46. Like, this guy has Syracuse as not necessarily a title contender, but playoff contender for sure. ACC championship, probably. We'll see what happens with Miami, but right now I would say that Syracuse is one of the few dark horses in the college football landscape. So Kyle McCord gets my player of the week.
ACC is obviously very weak, and Syracuse. This is
but Cal beat Auburn in Auburn.
Yeah, that is true. But
that is technically an ACC win now.
Yeah, technically, as weird as that sound. Look at Syracuse. It's a year where the ACC is so bad that it could end up being a sleeper team that makes the ACC championship. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but I think they can sneak themselves into the ACC championship because I think the ACC is that bad. My player of the week, I went Baker Mayfield, the man everyone wrote off, and he didn't write back. I mean, talk about a guy, and look, Cleveland fans are absolutely in the shitters. Look, Baker Mayfield. It's wild what happened after he got traded to the Panthers, right? The Bears, or sorry, not the Bears, the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, and the man has underperformed ever since. Obviously, the allegations, or not the allegations, the criminal stuff come out, and then everything that's happened with him on the field, he. Obviously, look, I'm not going to say that. Take it back. He needs something different with this game, and the Browns are in consideration of starting Jameis Winston because that's how bad he was. Mm-hmm. And Baker Mayfield is showing that he could be still one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC. He is producing at a great rate. He had 24 for 30, 289, 4 touchdowns in the NFL. That is a lot. The man produced.
Only quarterback to throw 3 touchdown passes, I believe, this weekend. The passing touchdowns were way down, and he was close to 300, and Tua is the only other quarterback to throw for over 300.
And he threw for 4 touchdowns, too, on top of that. The dude was an absolute stud, and like I said, look, the Buccaneers are a team where, they could be not as good as some of the other teams in their conference, but they could win their division still. Look at what Atlanta did. Look what New Orleans played a far inferior.
New Orleans played an FCS pool. They scheduled FCS week 1
against Carolina, and Carolina is just an absolute shit show as it is. And Bryce Young may be the worst trade-up quarterback of all time. May be one of the biggest reaches of all time, considering what the Bears got in return. We can look back on this in 5-6 years, and it could be absolute travesty for Carolina Panthers fans. But yeah, give me Baker. I love what Baker's doing. I love the moxie. He's a lot more mature now. He's not this cocky motherfucker. He's a dad. He plays hard. He plays good football. Gets the ball to his playmakers and Godwin, Evans, and Rashad White behind him. And this Buccaneers team, look out! I think they won a playoff game last year. I would not be surprised if they can make some noise again in the playoffs again this year.
I'm going to go to player of the week, and I have yours pulled up. So I'm going to play the video as you can describe why you chose this as your play of the week. This is DJ Dallas's 96-yard kickoff return, first kickoff return for a touchdown of this new kickoff era. So
look, the DJ Dallas kick return touchdown my play of the week. First time that's happened. If you look at I won't make Jimmy pull this up, but you look at the aerial view of the blocking scheme for the Cardinals. I said this in the preseason when the rule came out. I was like, you're going to see blocking schemes on how they block this. They basically run a wedge where the two middle guys block the opposite sides and everyone fans out, and there's a lane right down the middle where you have one guy to miss. And frankly, on the first time he returned it as well, he got to the 40-yard line in the same wedge technique. And like I said, it's no longer you're gonna have to start not kicking the dudes again. Like in reality, it's not. It's because a lot of teams are kicking the ball off the guys and making them run. But they are getting very creative, and the special team special team coordinators are getting very creative. And I love the scheming of blocking and not just saying just run straight up and fucking turn your guy this way. It's hey, you block this guy, you got to block that guy. Make sure to turn his hips that way. It's an offensive line scheming, lined up against one another with a running back behind you, catching, receiving the ball. So I thought it was very well done. And like I said, it's the first time that's happened. I'd expect honestly that number of kick return touchdowns to go up a lot more by the end of the year.
No, I think it's cool to see, and the blocking schemes on kickoff return are something that is you can get really creative with it, and it can work beautifully like what we just saw. My play of the week goes to college football and the quarterback for Missouri, number 9 ranked Missouri, by the way. Still, and I know that they haven't played anybody yet, but last season was such a magical run. Brady Cook takes off, makes a couple guys miss, but it's the end of the touchdown run that solidified it for my play of the week. Sacrificing the body, going full John Elway helicopter spin at the end with another touchdown. Missouri's sneaky on people. People are thinking that last year was just a fluke. Brady Cook is still the quarterback. That's the guy who was the quarterback last year. He just continues to get better. And they have some badass receivers. Like some might be considered the best receivers in the country. That's how good these guys are. So Missouri is a team, and Brady Cook with that touchdown run, that was my play of the week for this week. Bench warmer of the week. You're looking at him. It's me. Okay. 0-2 in fantasy with over 60% of the roster playing and scoring 0. Hey, Nico, ask me who my running back was.
Christian McCaffrey.
Well, that was one league. My other league, it was Travis Etienne, who had one of my only few touchdowns of anybody on my roster. But guess what? That was wiped out by his fumble at the end of the game.
Yeah,
so 0.
Ball security, job security. I thought I had a horrible week. I lost like 4 out of the 6 leagues I had, or 4 out of the 7 leagues I had, and luckily my dynasty leagues I did very, very good in. But it's funny because I obviously told you you asked me, should I keep CMC in, should I not? And I told you, I was like, yeah, just keep CMC in. I was like, I've been around obviously been around sports, I've been in those conversations, or been around those conversations where a guy's has to be listed as questionable because he has a nagging injury. I didn't think he'd keep it out for Monday Night Football at all.
Did you listen to the guy who replaced him? Said he knew he was starting since Friday, which I'm not going to lie, pissed me off, but you shouldn't say that in the media.
That poor guy. That guy has already sat through three media training sessions already. Like, you need to be careful.
Don't
Unfortunately,
say nothing. Say nothing, but
and
say everything, but say nothing.
maybe he misspoke, or maybe something along those lines happened, or whatever. But like, look, that poor guy dealt with so much BS. I feel so bad for him. But yeah, look, whether it be your hot takes about Anthony Richardson and Will Levis didn't look very good. The Bengals lost, obviously. Fantasy teams didn't look good. I agree.
Anthony Richardson still lost. He's still lost. Still a
I
loser.
agree, but I don't think you had a worse week than the Colorado Buffaloes, and that's why they're my bench warmer of the week. I hyped them up last week with Travis Hunter and how well they did against North Dakota State, and then you just put on the worst performance of a lifetime against a rivalry team.
Yep.
Against the rivalry team. I know you follow Busting with the Bulls. I know I follow them too. And the amount of shit I had to see going on with them playing Shador's music in the locker room and this every other thing. Nebraska-Colorado rivalry means something in this state. Colorado State rivalry means something in this state. To get embarrassed like that, to have no heart, have no will, to just lay over and get absolutely pounded paws like that on national television. You're easily bench one week, and it sucks to say that because I hope that they can turn around because I hope Travis Hunter is still a Bronco. But man, it absolutely hurts. It absolutely hurts watching that.
Well, our segments and our pick'em segment there were sponsored by Find the Good Brand. You can go to their website, findthegoodbrand.com, and use our promo code BENCH, BENCH. You'll get 10% off your order. There's a bunch of stuff. Nico's wearing one of the hats last week, but it's hats, hoodies, shirts, shorts, anything that you can think of. It's getting a little chilly
out. It's fall season. They got fall colors.
The sun is going down early now. I got so used to the sun being up past 8 o'clock that now it's like, oh shit, it's 7:30 and I can't see outside. This is bad. I don't want it to be fall. Actually, I kind of want it to be fall already because you know why? I turn my birthday, fall break. Yeah. I get to go on a little vacation, get a week off of school. I love teaching, but breaks are not for students.
You're already ready for a break.
Breaks are not for students. Breaks are for teachers. Breaks are for teachers. The honeymoon phase is over.
That was fast too. Unfortunately, yeah. That was quick.
It was about a month and a half honeymoon, and now I'm like, oh god, I'm trapped in this loveless marriage. Why did I do this to myself? All right, I love my kids. Let's make sure that we mention once again. Follow us at FUOTB Pod. Thank you guys very much for tuning in to episode 197. We had a bunch of people tuning in live, more than we've had in quite a long time. So be sure to subscribe, leave a like before you leave. Tell a friend to check out the show. If you missed any part live, it will be available for rewatch on X, Facebook now, and YouTube, and it's going to be on all podcasting platforms starting tomorrow or right after I get done with practice. So
one last thing I want to add into is the Sugar Show is this weekend, so I cannot wait to watch the Sugar Show at the Sphere. So I'm very, very excited about the UFC card. But I went to an event Friday night here in Denver, Colorado, that I was blown away by. And I don't you know this company, you know this promotion, One Championship. The One Championship that has Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson was here in Denver Friday night. And I went to their event, obviously kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMA, grappling. It has the 5 major, or I forgot the last one, maybe it was boxing too. 5 major martial arts events, all in one event. And I kid you not, they got a fan of me. I just had to say that. Obviously, Demetrius Johnson, I saw his retirement. He obviously retired from mixed martial arts. Very cool to see, legend of the sport. But they have a fan of me. There was 9 fights on the card, Jimmy. There was 8 knockouts.
Yes.
I mean, I was just...
Where did you watch this? Was it Fight Pass?
It's on Prime Video. It's on Prime Video. The Muay Thai, dude, the first
fight... If you watch legit Muay Thai, legit Muay Thai is so sweet.
I was watching these dudes, and I was like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, they stand him up, the dude falls, they give it 10 counts. Like, stop! The dude, like, the first fight, each dude got knocked out 3 times their own. Like, the dude in the first round, and it ended in a knockout. And I was like, where am I? I was like,
I just saw brain damage.
Where am I? It was so funny because the MMA was probably the most boring part of the whole card. The Muay Thai, the kickboxing, the like you see so I don't know if you can pull this out. The video of the knockout of the main event fight where the guy who won the Muay Thai and kickboxing championship, the dude hit him with the nastiest elbow. I think his Superlek or Superklek, I think was his name, knocked this dude out with an elbow where we saw it from a mile away, and the whole place just went absolutely nuts. I've never seen anything like it. They have a fan of me. It's all I'm going to say. They have a fan of me, and I love UFC. I love the UFC. I love the personalities of the UFC. You want to see some fucking raw violence? Turn it into one championship, because one championship. It is
I found it.
Unreal. The atmosphere. It has the presentation of a WWE live event, basically, because they have their whole entrances, they have their music. It's a lot different, obviously. I was going to this just chops hand, bot right to the head, out cold. The whole place went absolutely nuts for this. Because he was the underdog too, and the other guy had won a 2-division champion. It was a whole thing, and like I said, they got a fan of me, and maybe Muay Thai is the way to go. And MMA, obviously, the UFC is trying to work on not just laying on the guy and wrestling so long as the guys like Khabib, Marab, and company, and just winning like that because it's boring for the sport. Everyone knows that, and they're not getting finishes. But man, I was so impressed. If you look, Jimmy, 8 out of the 9 were knockouts, or maybe it was 7 out of 9. Either way, it was only 1 or 2 of them weren't knockouts and were decisions. And if you get a decision, if you get a finish win, you get a $50K bonus. Every single one.
That's why they're so angry. That makes way more sense. You should have led with that.
They get a $50K bonus for finishing the dude or finishing the girl. And I was like, look, my dad got the ticket to the event because there was this big grapple match between like 2 of the biggest grapplers in the world. One guy had missed weight or something, or was sick and wasn't able to grapple, and that's why we bought the tickets to the event. It was only $35 first level to see it perfectly. And
where was it?
It was at Ball Arena. At Ball Arena, filled to the top, by the way. I go to this event and I'm like, oh, this probably won't be that big. Probably not very many people, and I just get blown away. My dad and I left there being like, what the fuck did I just watch? Where has this been my whole life?
Where are we?
Where are we? And look, I'm a diehard UFC fan. Everyone knows that. I mean, I know you are too. But man, I highly recommend seeing some of these highlights and seeing some of these fights on one because I was thoroughly impressed. I cannot say that enough. I didn't say enough good things about what I saw Friday night. And like I said, they do Friday night so that the UFC's on Saturday, so you can still get your Friday night fights in and then get Saturday fights in. You don't miss anything. And man, I like hats off. Renzo Gracie was there, giving the black belt to giving the guy who runs the whole organization's black belt, first career black belt after 35 years of practicing jiu-jitsu. I mean, I was like, holy wow. I was literally wow.
I do remember listening because Shab was at the event. And I remember listening I was listening to his podcast and he was saying he was coming out. Now, I wish I would have watched it because I didn't have anything going on Friday night.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
I cannot say enough good things. It was an event of itself, and a lot of people I'd heard like it's a little tougher on watching it or not in person because it doesn't seem as crazy as it is. But when you go in person, you see the pyro, the screens. It feels like you're watching Monday Night Raw, but it's inside an octagon, and these dudes literally going for blood and saying, I need to knock you out to pay for fucking dinner this week at $50K. And oh man, kudos to them. I cannot say enough good things is all I'm going to say. So look, I know you and I are big fight fans. So we enjoy fights out of the weekend, but if you're a fight fan, I highly recommend checking out between the Demetrius Johnson retirement, the black belt ceremony with Renzo Gracie, one of the greats of jiu-jitsu, the 7 out of 9 or 8 out of 9 fucking knockouts I saw. I just was like, I paid to watch this. Like I could have got paid to watch. Are you kidding me? Like unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
I think that's great. That's why you come here for the far end of the bench, because Nico gets to have some opportunities like that. We like to talk.
I'm the guy for alternative sports.
I was kind of upset when you said that last week, but now that kind of just proves the point, because I was like, I like wrestling, but yeah, no, I don't really get that many different discoveries. No. This was a great episode. Everybody who tuned in, thank you very much. I got to run right out to practice. I'm already going to be late, which is fine. I'm never late. It's okay. I'll deal with it. Follow at FEOTB Pod, episode 197 of the Far End of the Bench. For myself, Jimmy Pilato, my co-host, Nico Bryant. We will see you guys next time.
Peace.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come Come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.